Happy Thursday, everyone. This is So What, the Marketing Analytics Insights Live show. This week, our fearless CEO, Katie, is taking some much-needed time off to go, I think it was stalking like small rabbits or something in the backwoods. I don't know.
Deep woods somewhere. Yeah, that was the story I got.
Deep woods. So while she is off enjoying her time, this week we're going to have some fun with Google Analytics 4. Specifically, we're going to migrate one of our websites, the Marketing Over Coffee website, from GA3 to GA4, leaving GA3 in place and stuff. So before we begin, we have to have a quick birthday shout out. Marketing Over Coffee, the podcast that John and I do, turned 15 this week.
Dude, we're way too old. That's just all there is to it. We are dinosaurs in this world. So with a Google Analytics 4 migration, there's like 8 or 9 major parts you have to go through. There's users, goals and conversions, legal stuff, platform infrastructure, business infrastructure, your GA3 instance, your tag manager instance, your GA4 instance, Google Data Studio, and then alternative analytics systems and stuff. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and just pull up the Marketing Over Coffee website here in a second screen while we chat this through. So one of the first things that we have to do with any kind of website is figure out what the goals are. So, John, what are the major goals for Marketing Over Coffee from a primary and secondary perspective? Yeah, I mean, the ultimate goal, of course, is our sponsors getting leads, right? I mean, that's actually what pays the bills. But as far as the web traffic, we've, just generic traffic in, getting to the pages. And then we do have newsletter signups, which when you mentioned last week we're going to do this, I imagine are probably broken because we've changed vendors a couple of times on that. So it'll be interesting to see how bad that off is. But yeah, that's really, traffic, newsletter sign up, and then, of course, traffic for sponsor hits.
Gotcha. So would you classify as a goal something like people going to click on, get Marketing Over Coffee on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts? Would those be goals too?
Yeah, and we had back solved a little while ago, and $8 a lead was the price that we had come up with. We kind of knew that, based on what we've made in previous years, that if we get qualified traffic, those people are usually worth about $8 to us.
Okay, got it. So from a goal perspective, then we obviously do care about traffic. We do care about the newsletters. Let's take a quick look at the newsletter. Ooh, so this is iframed in.
Yeah, that's a stopgap because we just transitioned off .digital about 3 months ago, and so that's up there until I get Ghost up and running. So yeah, right now I'm just collecting them on a Google spreadsheet for now.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, this is something that can't easily be tracked because it's framed in, so that you can't measure that. The site does have gravity forms. You can always put up a gravity form on site, and then you can track that natively.
Yeah, that would be, in fact, yeah, that would probably be better because I could get notifications that actually make sure it's working as opposed to me not looking at the spreadsheet that's being filled up.
So once again, it's the cobbler's kids have no shoes.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, it works. Come on, thumbs up for it. I am collecting email addresses. It works.
Fair enough. Okay, other parts of the Google marketing platform, the site does use Tag Manager, right?
It does, yeah. That's been configured.
What about Search Console?
Yeah, it's on. I haven't looked that long, but last time I looked, it was clean. But it's been a good 5 or 6 months since I looked last.
Got it. Okay, let's see. Do I have access to that Search Console account? Because if I don't, I can't do.
We may have to. I have done Href Site Health. That one was last done like about 2 months ago, and we got the health way up in the 90s, so that was solid. But
got it. It looks like I do have Search Console access to the site, so we should be all set with that there too. One of the big things with GA4 migrations is you need to have admin on any of the systems that you want to tie into it. So other parts of Google Marketing Platform like Tag Manager, Search Console, Google Ads and stuff. If you want them integrated with GA4, you've got to have access to those systems. So I feel like, other than the newsletter show being kind of in a wonky place, what about the contact form? Is that of any value? I mean, I know a lot of it is people just pitching.
Yeah, we get pitches, so it's I don't put any extra value on that, so no need.
Okay, so not necessarily. I
I guess we can just leave it as it's not bad to have that as a goal to see, you know, if people are still interacting, but certainly not something we're going to stick a dollar value amount on unless it's to fund the comedy episode of terrible pitches. Okay. So first things first, and these are considerations for your company. Do you, as the marketer, have the ability to sign legally binding documents with Google around data protection? If you don't, you need to make sure you get legal looped in sooner rather than later. Second, what governs your marketing data collection? So Marketing Over Coffee is technically a U.S. corporation, right?
Yes.
Okay, but it's not like a French corporation.
Yeah, no, we're not like anything sketchy based out of some part of the world. We are the classic Delaware LLC.
Okay, so that would mean that while there aren't any data agreements that directly cover Marketing Over Coffee as an operating business entity, there are some data privacy ones that do apply. So California's laws would apply, obviously, because we have listeners in California. GDPR would apply for any listeners who are physically located within the European Economic Area. And then PIPL for any listeners who are based in China. But from a legal perspective, you would be the person who would agree to things. Let's see, other stuff, platform stuff. The site does use SSL, so that's all set. Any other domains that we would classify under the Marketing Over Coffee family?
Not anymore. No, there was an email domain for the email provider, but that's it. So we're back down to the single site.
Okay, cool. Are there any systems and referrals that we know we should ignore? So again, for some companies, if you have Zendesk, you probably have a lot of traffic coming to and from Zendesk, and it's not, for marketing purposes, not terribly helpful. Obviously, for customer service measurement, that's something you'd want to do separately.
Yeah, no, I don't even bother with my own IP. We have dynamic IP here, and it's not like I'm pounding the site more than 5 times a week. So.
Okay. In Google Analytics itself, what reports do you focus on? So if we go into the Marketing Over Coffee, you see the lovely GA4 warning there. Where do you spend your time in the app as the primary user?
Yeah, the behavior tab is big because I like to see which content is actually pulling and doing things. I do look at the conversions just for some raw numbers, but really that's about it. We're not so huge that the real time gets a lot of action, and yeah, really, I just spend more time over on Hrefs trying to clean up errors and broken links. That was kind of like the project for the last year, so I don't spend a ton of time over here.
Okay, got it. So in terms of things that you might be sorely missing, probably not a ton that you're like, oh my gosh, this obscure feature from GA3 that's going away is my beloved insights. Okay.
Yeah, no, we're definitely raw traffic, and that's 90% of it.
Got it. All right, so let's do this. We need to get started. The first thing we have to do is we have to create the new GA4 property. I'm assuming the accounts that have access to this, does everybody who's in here still need to have access to Scout? Like this one, I don't think needs to be in this. That's the overall miscellaneous account. Okay. I think that looks good for the site. There's the Trust Insight stuff.
That's a TI token. Okay, so yeah, no, everybody else we know, so that's
okay.
Good.
So let's go ahead and create a new property. This will be, we'll call this MOC GA4 fun. We're going to go with New York time. US dollar is the currency. We don't want the advanced option. We don't need that. We are a small business, and we're doing this mainly to measure lead generation, optimize my site, measure customer engagement. That sounds good. Okay, now the next part is to set up our data stream. Do we still have mobile apps?
Yeah, that actually just happened 3 days ago. I was hitting the mobile app and I got the classic iOS, hey, the developer of this app is fallen woefully behind and needs to figure out their problems. So actually, let me check on a newer platform because that was an older device. Yeah, no, it still says it needs to be updated, and it won't even let me open it. So it has to be like 4 or 5 versions old.
So we don't have a mobile app.
Yeah, no, because it used to be like you could you could open it up, and they would just say like, well, it may or may not work. Good luck. But this is the full on like, yeah, no, we're not even going to let you start it.
Okay. All right. So we're going to do just web now. If we'd had the mobile app working, we could have talked about that again, setup, but not so much. All right. We do have SSL in place, so marketingovercoffee.com. We're going to call this MOC web stream. Enhanced measurement is turned on. Just make sure everything is all set. We're going to create that stream. Okay. That's interesting. Good job, Google. Let me just turn off all the ad blocking widgets here. Normally, I would be doing this on a different site, but okay, there's our measurement ID. So let's copy that. We're going to come back to Google Analytics for it in just a bit, but we need to move over to Tag Manager because now we have to start creating all the GA4 stuff. So first things first. Let's check our built-in tags, make sure they're okay. Yep, they're all on, which I personally like. Doesn't slow things down. There's the MOC GA, which I'm going to rename to GA3. And let's create ourselves a new constant, MOC GA4 constant. Because of the way Google Analytics 4 is set up, there's no longer a built-in setting here. There's one here. This applies only to GA3. So for GA4, you just got to use a constant. And you put that in. Hit save. Okay. Next, we need to create the base tag. So GA4 works by having a base tag and then having event tags that tell GA4 to do stuff above and beyond the base. So let's create our first. So GA4 base tag. And this is our GA4 configuration base tag. And our measurement ID, this is where our constant comes into play. I always do that because otherwise one day you will fat finger that and then you'll have no data and you'll be wondering why. Let's see. Do we need anything else? There's no additional consent required. And this is going to trigger everywhere. Okay. So now the base tag is in, which will count your basic page views and stuff like that. We now need to look at our trigger collection and our goals and figure out what stuff do we need to set up. So we've got our Android and iTunes link clicks to take you to those relevant apps. We've got something that will track any click that goes off of the website. We've got download the MP3. Let's get a placeholder in here for newsletter subscribe. And this is going to be a form submission. And let's go to the site here. Okay, so it's newsletter. Some forms on the page URL contains. This won't work until we switch it over to Gravity Forms, but we got that in place. Let's see. We've got these three things. We've got contact form needs to go in. Let's get the contact form thank you page URL. Okay. We actually don't have a thank you page. We just do a in-page change. So let's do thank you contact form. Thank you. Now we're going to do our form submission on subforms where the page URL contains contact. All right, so now we've got our major goal completions, our conversions tags set up. Now we have to create the corresponding triggers. We're not going to mess with any of the GA3 stuff. We're just going to leave that to be for right now. I'm going to rename this GA3. One of the things that people do the most wrong is they don't delineate between GA3 and GA4, and then your tag manager is just a huge big mess. Cody asks, is the best practice to send a page view in the GA4 configuration taglets? Yes. I've not seen a use case for not having the base configuration tag also fire a page view. You can obviously set it up as a separate independent event, particularly if there's places you don't want page views to fire. You don't want the GA tags to fire at all. Like, for example, if you were doing marketing and you had a login page for existing customers and an existing customer's portal, it would make sense to just not fire page views for your marketing data stream. Okay, so now we need to create those goals, those conversions. So let's call this GA4 contact conversion. It's going to be our event. Our configuration tag is the base tag. I'm going to call this contact conversion. And this will trigger with our contact form. Thank you. Let's do the newsletter next. Before conversion, event, base tag, and this is newsletter conversion. Save. Next, we're going to do, let's do the iTunes click conversion. A podcast hasn't been called iTunes in what, 2 years now? Okay, call this Apple conversion and outbound iTunes and Android version. Version event. Okay, and outbound Android. Okay, and we also want to track outbound clicks. We may not necessarily want to be a conversion, but I do want to track outbound clicks. GA4 clicks event. Because we have a lot of links in the show notes and stuff to different vendors and partners and stuff, and I'd like to know who they are. In fact, now that I think about that, let's add to that event, let's add a value and then add the click URL. And that way we know, we'll be able to tell from the event data what outbound the clicks are getting clicked on.
That's huge, right? I mean, there's no way to do that in GA3, is there?
Oh yeah, you can do that in GA3.
Well, you set that up as an event just to grab it as
it's an event-based stuff. The event model is not super different, except that the naming is a lot more flexible now, but it's functionally not super different. All right. The other thing that we need to do is inside Tag Manager is now a best practice to enable the consent overview that allows you to review consent for all your tags and stuff, which is really important. So we've gone through now, we've set up our conversions for GA4. We're going to come back to Tag Manager in a bit, where now we need to actually start configuring this sucker. So we don't currently use any connected site tags. If we did, like Google Optimize or something, we would want to put that in here. Let's see, for measurement protocol, if we were going to do stuff with the measurement protocol, like push data into it, we would want to look at that. You okay if I say yes, Google?
Sure.
All right. Yeah. We're signing legally binding agreements on the air. It's great. Let's see, universal. We do want to click universal analytics events. This one's a really big deal. So there's some vendors, like with Calendly, for example. Calendly will send an appointment booked GA3 event. They don't send a GA4 event right now. So if you turn this on, you can collect those GA3 events and have them passed into GA4, which is really handy.
Will that stay even past sunset, or?
Probably, because like I said, there's a ton of services out there. Now, I would hope those services, or at least the more modern ones, would
come around. Yeah, that's a good point.
Exactly. Let's go ahead and turn on marketing over coffee as for cross domain.
Okay, we don't have any internal traffic. Don't have any unwanted referrals yet, I don't think. Session timeout, 30 minutes is the generally best practice. We're going to leave that alone. So this data stream, this web stream is now all set. Let's look into our property settings. So industry, what do we do for the industry? Business and industrial?
Yeah, because I don't think they have a marketing tech or anything.
No. Okay. Save on that. Let's see. Access should be, yep, looks good. Okay, let's do our data settings. Data collection. We need to turn on Google Signals. Signing more legally binding things.
Let it rip.
Let it rip. Yep. All right. So we've got that. The user data collection is acknowledged. So there's a whole long paper about how the client ID in Google Analytics can then be paired to other stuff. That's worth reading. It's in the support documents. It's really awkward. Google has so much useful documentation about GA4, but it's in the developers portal. So where your average marketer is not going to see it. Like, here's a long list of metrics in GA3, and here's their equivalents to GA4. That's not published anywhere, easy to find. We have, in fact, I think I put it in the Slack group, let's say a week or two ago. If you've not joined the Slack, go to trustinsights.ai/analytics for marketers. We're sharing stuff there. All right. So we've got collection on retention. We're going to crank this as far as it'll go, which is the 14 months for event data. That's just keeping those hit logs. GA4 will keep aggregated data past that, but it will not keep individual event data. So if there's stuff you'll ever want to look back on, this will give you 14 months. And then if you want more than that, you have got to set up the BigQuery integration.
You go to BigQuery, yeah.
Yep. So we don't have any filtering to do right now. Let's check our reporting identity. We want to make sure it's by user and device. Attribution settings. The default should be cross-channel data-driven, and then with the windows wide open there. Property change history is just us tooling around. Do we have a Google Ads account?
We do. I don't know if it's linked, though, because I have my own personal Google Ads account. I think that's the one that I'm actually using.
Okay, that's fine. We don't use Ad Manager. BigQuery. Let's put a BigQuery project in place. Let's use.
Says there is one there.
Oh yeah, look at that.
That's rando.
Question is, is billing set up on it? Billing may not be. Okay, total estimated daily events. So a 1 million daily limit, including advertising. I think we're gonna be okay. We want daily. Okay, that looks good. It looks like I don't have billing turned on that project. So there's a marketing over coffee project in GCP, but it's not set to bill.
Right.
What that means is you get two sets of tables in BigQuery. You get the previous day's captured data, and you get a live table as well. So if you're doing stuff with real-time analytics in BigQuery, you'd want both turned on, and it's double the cost. Which, for a site like Marketing Over Coffee, the cost of this is going to be somewhere out between $1 and $2 a month. It's not a huge bill. Now, if you're like CNN, it could get really expensive.
Right.
Okay, so we've got BigQuery all linked up. If you don't have administrative access to your company's Google Cloud Platform account, you're going to need to get it if you want to be able to do this integration. And again, this is to get you event data past the 14-month rolling window. Let's see, Search Console. Let's link up our Search Console here. Marketing Over Coffee. Hit next. Select the web stream, this one, and submit. So now Search Console data will be linked into Google Analytics 4 as well. Okay, so that's all of the configuration for GA4. So we've now got it in place. It should be receiving data because we've published the tags and tag manager. So let's go into reports real quick and just see if there's any real-time activity.
And while we're at it, let's go into preview mode in Tag Manager. Okay, so the page is loading. Ah.
I would have to kick the cache there.
Might not even be that. It might also be that I need to allow that. Let's retry. There we go. Tag assistance now connected. All right, so what's fired? GA3 tag is fired, GA4 base tag is fired, stack adapt and clarity. Let's go. Oh, we open the debug window. Yeah. Let's go ahead and click on newsletter. And accept our cookies. That's our curiosity. Let's do a test. Okay, yeah, so it did not register at all. Okay.
Right, yeah, till that switches to gravity, that's not gonna fire.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we know GA4 is there. And look, we've got some traffic, which is good. Okay, next thing we need to do is we need to actually put those events and conversions that we did in Tag Manager into the interface. So we're going to go to Configure. We have our events. Go away. Okay, and we're going to declare, just for thoroughness, we're going to declare those events. Apple conversion, the event name, and the event name equals that, right? That's going to do one for Android. One for the newsletter. And for the contact. And what did I call that other one? Yeah, it was the outbound GA4 outbound clicks. I call it outbound click event. Okay. Copy parameters of the source event. That's correct. All right. So now we've got our conversion events declared. We now need to go in and designate those. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same. Anything that has conversion in the name, we're going to recycle here. We're not going to do the outbound click one as a conversion event. Contact conversion. All right. Save. Go away. Okay, so now our conversions are set up. Do we have any audiences that we defined in the old site? Any specific audiences or segments?
No, I don't believe so.
All right. It might be interesting to set up a couple of audiences. Let's do one. Let's create a custom audience. I'm going to set to maximum limit, and let's call this Apple audience, just for fun. And if we have an event, where's my custom events? Oh, they're not here. Once they're here, then we could set up a
events. So like if you click on the Apple iTunes button, then we can enroll you in an Apple audience versus an Android audience and designate the different users that way.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do that now. It's not there yet. Okay. We don't have any custom dimensions and metrics on the old site. I don't think so. It's just the new site. And then let's go ahead and I don't have the Chrome debug extension on here.
I was gonna say, so that you have to have an extension on to make that stuff trigger.
Yeah, you have the Google Analytics debug extension, but then you can see what's happening. But given that we are seeing stuff in the real-time environment here,
Yeah, we know it's at least working. Yeah.
yeah, we've got some stuff working. The Seth Godin podcast episode is always doing well. Okay, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Let me check the checklist here. It's got all of that. All right, so we don't have any filters, no server-side tracking. All right. So next thing to do is in the website itself, we want to install a backup system because one of the things that is kind of an issue. Oh, wait, here, Cody has a question. Prevent to have parameters. To see parameters in GA4 in larger time frame, less than 3 minutes, you have to create custom dimensions. You should see the event parameter data accompanying the event itself, right? So, because it's tied to the event record within the backend data structure. Now that said, you essentially have a sort of session level event scoping and then user level event scoping. If you want to, I think, have a bit more flexibility, it wouldn't hurt to make it a custom dimension. Okay, the next thing I want to do is in the website itself, installing a backup system, because one of the things that has happened, obviously, a lot of folks are like, well, this is a challenge, is to have a parallel analytics system of some kind. So if you're using WordPress and your WordPress hosting company is a pretty solid company, like we use WP Engine, which can tolerate all sorts of abuse. One of the things that you may want to do is install another analytics package. So I'm going to install the open source Matomo Analytics. This is not only is it free as an open source, but it runs on your server, so it's not hosted elsewhere, which means that all the data stays on your server, and from a privacy perspective, the data never leaves your control. All right, let's enable tracking. All right, the privacy page. Worry about that right now. Okay, so we should have. If we go into the reporting engine now, this takes us to the Matomo for Marketing Over Coffee. Let's go into settings. Let's see, system, general settings. We don't need, let's do star. Save that there. We don't use most of the stuff that we don't use their tag manager. The nice thing is you don't have to use their tag manager because it's physically installed on the server itself. Let's go back to our, there we go. And go to the WP settings here, add tracking code, default tracking. And we do want to track 404s. And save. Know what other folks need access. Okay, privacy stuff. Exclusions. If we want to exclude like administrators like us, we could exclude them. If we want a geolocation more accurate, we could install MaxMind, which we probably should do at some point. But now that means we have a
second web analytics system is running in parallel with Google Analytics. So if, for example, in a year and a half, the EU says, we're disallowing Google Analytics completely, which is a non-zero possibility because of GDPR compliance, then you definitely want to have a system that is not Google also tracking your site as well. They can put things together. And as people's ad blockers get better, you also want to have something that can pick up the data. Okay. Let's see. Go down the rest of the checklist here. I think the only other thing I guess we could do would be a dashboard for it and stuff. If you wanted to put together a dashboard, let's take a look at creating one here. And we're going to connect to Google Analytics. We're going to connect to our MOC GA4 account. Where did that go? Let's see it in here. What did I do with it? Huh, it's there. I just can't see it. Oh, there it is. Okay, add that in. All right, some basic stuff. Let's turn on the grid, set the grid to 12, and snap to the grid just because I'm obsessive like that. I like my things to be neat. So you said traffic, John, right?
Yeah, traffic is definitely the leader.
Okay. What kind of traffic? Do you care about sessions or do you care about human beings, users?
We've always cared about sessions, not users, but I'm trying to think. Users would actually be more useful.
Well, yes and no. I mean, we make our revenue model is based on sponsorship, so it wouldn't hurt to have a more times of activity, people using their eyeballs on the site, regardless if it's the same person or not, because of the way people, the buying cycle goes. I think sessions is a fine metric.
Yeah, I'm definitely that is what we share with advertisers. That's for sure.
Exactly. The other thing is that from an analytics perspective, knowing where a session came from is useful because again, if we get somebody to come back over and over and over again, I would like to know all the different channels that user is coming from.
Yeah, where they're coming from, definitely.
All right. So let's go into what we've got here for our counts. So users has amusingly enough been renamed. Well, there's active users and there's total users. For the purposes of these reportings, we're going to go with active users. And the API documentation does detail the difference between these, because there's a lot of things that now have these like really, really nitpicky granular things. And let's do this as a time series chart. We've got our date. And I don't need event name breakdown. I just need the date and the active users. So that'll be our active user counts. There's obviously nothing to show yet because we just literally just turned GA4 on. The other thing I tend to like to do for simplicity's sake is to take a clone of our charts and always make them little scorecards. Makes it easier for people to read what's going on. Okay, and then what other measures of conversion do we care or should be on this dashboard?
Channels that you'd mentioned. My channels they have been corrected. I mean, UTM management's an issue, but it's still good to know where stuff is coming from.
Okay, so let's do that as a table and bar. And so it's interesting. Source medium used to be the sort of the standard reporting, and now it's two separate fields. Google has separated them out. And again, this is one of those things where there's like 3 different sources here. So you can see session source, and user source. In the documentation, which is, again, in the developer section, session source is the source from that particular session that you're looking at. The one that's labeled plain source is the conversion source. So if a conversion event happened, the source is the that was in play at the time of conversion. And then user source is the first touch user source. So it's kind of funny that you almost have like a miniature attribution model, just in the way the data is broken up. But for our purposes, we're going to go with session source. And then let's get rid of date, because we don't necessarily need that. It's governed by the overall here. And then let's add in our medium as well. And then our channel grouping can be thrown in. Okay, so once we get data in there, then we'll have a nice little table telling you where your traffic is coming from. Anything else?
I don't know. Those are, that's like, again, the lion's share of the stuff. It's pretty much how many people are there. And then, we did this last month. Did it do anything? Those are the kind of the big questions. Anything else you suggest? Other stuff that you've seen that should be in there?
Well, normally if the conversion events were money makers, you would definitely have them front and center. But obviously, we make our money differently. So these are, the active users really is, essentially what you show to the advertiser and say like, yeah, we got scads of people.
Right. Yeah. This is where it's at.
Does Libsyn have a connector for Google Data Studio?
No, not that I'm aware of. I mean, let me take a look and see if there's anything new there. But yeah, they really don't have any outgoing stats as far as I know.
Okay. For those listening, Libsyn is the podcast hosting company that hosts the MP3s.
This is good because as I'm in there, I can open up a ticket to say, when are you going to fix the app?
Oh, that's something that we forgot to put in. We forgot to put in a tag for people clicking on just the MP3 links.
Mm-hmm.
That was in the old. Let's put that back. G4 P3 link click. And again, that's because we put the actual show URLs right on the website. I'm going to mark that as a conversion because we're getting people to listen to the show. Go ahead and push that. And then go into GA4 and go back to our configuration menu. I hate these little sliding side menus. And declare that as a conversion as well. Now, the other thing, you said that we value listeners at a value of about $8. Do any of these conversions be things that you would attach that dollar amount to?
I mean, it was always just, that's the average amount. The reality is there obviously the people that listen to every single show every week are worth more than the ones that only pop in once in a while.
Right.
But that was it. I mean, I guess we could argue that the newsletter subscribers are worth more. I've never done any. I guess the way to do that would be we would take the newsletter subscribers, just figure out how we want to portion the total income. So if I said, well, I think newsletter subscribers are worth twice as much, we could make them 16, and then the general listeners would fall to like $6 or something like that.
Right. Okay. Well, let's set a newsletter subscription value then. So in here, unlike GA3, conversion data is set up in Tag Manager now. So event parameters, we're going to add in our currency, which is USD, and we're going to add our value, which is going to be $16. So now every time this tag fires, it's going to fire that value data with it.
Yeah, that's good to track.
And then that will show up as essentially as revenue in GA4. All right. So as of right now, Marketing Over Coffee is now set up. GA4 is running. We've got our tags and our triggers and stuff all up to date. Typically, if this was a commercial client, we'd then go to the different stakeholders, present the dashboards, review it the last time through with different users, make sure that the user stories that we've acquired from folks match up with what we've actually built, that the goals are all in there, and that the data is flowing properly. But that's the I would call it the easy part of GA4 migration, because the hard part for us doesn't really exist, because it's literally just the two of us. But that is like, who needs access? What kind of access do they need? What are their user stories? All the different business cases, the reporting structure internally in the organization, the governance around UTM tracking codes. All those things would be stuff that typically takes the longest for clients to get to. The pushing the buttons part is less time consuming, as long as you know what buttons to push in which order. But it really is working out the configuration of who should get what, and any other integrations. Like, this is a very vanilla setup. There's no needed integrations with HubSpot or Shopify or any other crazy stuff. It is just stock GA4.
Yeah, getting that straight is a huge deal. And then how about as far as the UTM codes too? Because we've already been dealing with that with a bunch of clients, as far as, the old schema does not work. So you do need to retool that whole process, right?
So it's not that it doesn't work. The source and medium codes are the two most critical ones. And there's only 3 UTM codes that are shown in the interface, which is kind of obnoxious, and which is available in the API. If you look in Data Studio, if you look at the, sort of what's available, you have source, you have medium, you have campaign. But other stuff like keyword and stuff, which used to be in the older GA, is no longer here. So the 3 UTM codes that are available in the API for tracking are source, medium, and campaign. So your naming convention has to conform to those. And then when we talked about the sort of session default channel grouping in, let's resize this to just do it evenly. So you have session default channel grouping. In order for traffic to be correctly classified, you have to use Google's approved list of mediums, which is really what governs that. So you can't just kind of wing it. So, like, for example, I've seen people do stuff like, banner ad as the source and Facebook as the medium, and Google will not put that in a channel grouping, because it should be Facebook and then either social or paid social as you mean it, and you can maybe name the campaign Facebook banner, but there's a lot more rigor around what you do with source medium codes now.
And so what happens if those are wrong? It's still in the data set, but it just doesn't show up in the interface at all, or does it actually get ignored?
It shows up, but it won't show up in the right channel grouping. So, like, if you're using the channel groupings in the built-in attribution report and you don't have the good governance, that report will be wrong.
It doesn't have the data.
So what's next steps for you, John, now that your website is all tagged up properly and things?
It's all clean and shiny. Well, obviously the email thing is the next big step that we need to do. I got to switch those over to Gravity Forms and actually send some email too, because that's been dragging as we've gone through this vendor process. But that's top of the list to get cleaned up.
All right. If you've got any questions about the stuff that we did in this very rapid walkthrough, because we didn't actually sit down and explain in detail a lot of the different settings. I suppose at some point we probably should. But if you've got questions and you didn't ask them in time, go to trustinsights.ai/analytics for marketers. And if you just want somebody to do it for you, then you can just go to the contact page on the site. Any final parting thoughts?
No, just, you've got the clock is ticking. You have about 14 months. So, and a big thing too is, this announcement's now so that you can have it on, at least get it turned on so you're gathering data, so that come June 2023, you have a year's worth of history, because otherwise you're not going to have history, right? Because the history that you can't do any cross compare back to GA3.
Nope, you cannot. I would bet that some enterprising person will probably figure out a way to make a connector to do data import, but don't bank on it.
That's only going to last for like 3 years. That's a finite, that has a fuse, that product. So
exactly. So, all right. Well, in that case, let's head on out of here, and we'll talk to you all next week. Take care. Thanks for watching today. Be sure to subscribe to our show wherever you're watching it. For more resources and to learn more, check out the Trust Insights podcast at trustinsights.ai/TI podcast and a weekly email newsletter at trustinsights.ai/newsletter. Got questions about what you saw in today's episode? Join our free Analytics for Marketers Slack group at trustinsights.ai/analytics for marketers. See you next time.